Welcome back to Morning Joy, where truth matters. I'm Keith Downey, your host, and excited to have back our guest, Niekro, pitcher for the Mississippi Braves, and who was affected, like many, by Hurricane Milton. Good morning and welcome back to the show, JJ.
Good morning, guys. Thank you for having me on, and it's nice not to be cleaning up a lot of trees and roots and branches right now, so this is a reprieve for sure.
I can only imagine. We have uncontained trash pickup happening soon, and I was just digging all this, like you said, roots and just things that we don't need anymore plant-wise. And I could take a break, and I didn't have to deal with any of the things that you had to deal with. So I was just mindful of that when I was working out in the backyard. But my goodness, JJ, tell us about your experience going through not just one, but two hurricanes in Florida now.
Yeah, it's statistically pretty improbable that you get hit with two hurricanes in back-to-back weeks. Helene, fortunately, didn't get us too badly, but it absolutely destroyed the west coast of Florida. In my entire life, I've lived in Tampa area for 26 years. I've never seen Bayshore, which one of the main streets in Tampa, become that flooded. I know many people that went to my Jesuit high school in Tampa who didn't lose their home completely, but they had a ton of flooding. They had to gut everything, and they're having to start over in many ways. And that was really tough because nobody predicted that storm. They all thought, oh, it's going north. The storm surge won't be too bad, and it just crushed people out of nowhere. And then a week later, you have Milton, which forms in the Gulf of Mexico, and usually you don't see too many storms forming in the Gulf of Mexico. When this formed, we saw it was coming straight for Tampa. Fortunately, it came a little bit south of Tampa and Sarasota, and Venice was really destroyed. I saw sand up to people's waists in their house from the after effects of the storm surge. I'm actually in Plant City, Florida, and I'd never seen flooding like you see on TV, but you don't realize something happens until it's in your front yard when it comes to that. And we literally had neighbors going through their wastes, trying to clear drains out to help the water drain more quickly. And I know many people that their house is flooded. My brother's house, actually, their septic failed, so they can't live in their house until January. So it was just an absolutely miserable experience. The hurricane hit last Wednesday or Thursday. We're still doing cleanup today on Tuesday. And I'm just thankful I'm not near the coast, but it was an absolutely insane experience.
What's wild is that while the media was ramping up the storm, and now that it's over, we kind of, like, at least those that are not living in Florida, we don't know what's going on the ground there. So I'm thankful for you to kind of join us and to still talk about, like, yeah, there's still things happening here. We're still trying to get back up on our feet. But you mentioned too, there's a lot of people that are still struggling. How has your Catholic faith helped with you cope with some of the devastation caused with your own home? And has there been any specific moments where you really did find a strong connection to God?
Yeah, I always think there's two ways of looking at any situation. And even if you're not Catholic, there's a very optimistic and positive way or a negative way. And a lot of my neighbors around here aren't Catholic, but when we did our immediate cleanup crew right after the hurricane, they had this instantly Catholic mindset of just giving themselves completely away, of helping with branches. One of my neighbors actually helped me repair my roof until we could get more roofing supplies out there as well, which is beautiful. But it's really, it was funny that the hurricane hit, and the next days after, we had the most beautiful weather of the year in Florida. I was explaining to a couple of my neighbors who they weren't Catholic or they were just Christian. It's literally just natural law theory. Like, you could discover God in the universe. You face this immense suffering, but then you go through suffering in life. Like when you lose a loved one, when a relationship ends, when something, there's always so much beauty that comes out of it. And we've been last night I was hanging out, having some bourbon with my friends in their backyard, just taking a break from all of the crazy stuff that's been going on. And we haven't had this weather all year. These relationships we formed haven't been there because I didn't know a lot of these people on my street. And the faith is always just the crux of your entire life, because you meet everything, but you meet it with joy. When something bad happens, it's just a chance for you to suffer with Christ and for you to realize that you're participating in his suffering, which in the end can make you all the more joyful. So it was a blessing in many ways, and a lot of good has come out of it. So we're still praying for all those that are affected, especially those that are dealing with the after effects of flooding, because that's a headache in and of itself. But there always is a greater good that comes out of that suffering, especially when we bear our cross with Christ.
Oh, well said. And it kind of reminds me of Saint Teresa of Avila. She talks a lot about how we can suffer well. And while it's not good for many people to go through these things, but we can utilize that and make good use of suffering for the betterment of us. So that's very helpful to hear. Now, what are some practical ways people can find hope and joy during difficult times like these. I mean, you mentioned kind of people coming together, rallying together, which is really great to see, especially if you don't know your neighbors. And now you do. But any specific advice for listeners who might be feeling overwhelmed in these situations?
Yeah, it was interesting. I was thinking about that right when the power went out for a lot of people. And when your power goes out and you're cut off from the outside world, you literally become a monk for a couple of days. You're living this
Hmm.
monastic lifestyle where you're cut off from the rest of the world. But then people realize when their power's out, they become happier because they don't have the anxieties of social media. They're not going to Fox or CNN right in the morning and turning on their news and saying, oh, all this is going wrong with the world. You're literally forced to take care of your corner of the vineyard, just like Christ says in
Hmm.
scriptures. And when you focus on those immediate things near you, your family, your friends, your neighbors, life becomes a lot less stressful because you realize, oh, all I can do is wake up and say yes to love Christ, and that's all that matters. Padre Pio says, "Pray, love, and or pray, hope, and don't worry." And that's literally it. That's all you can do. When the storm was coming, I put Saint Michael the Archangel little pictures all around my house. I was blessing it with holy water. I was like, God's got this. And when you take that mindset, I think it changes a lot because, yeah, your roof may fly off, your house may flood, but did anyone die in my family and friends? No. Did any of these really catastrophic things happen? No. And when I lost my dad when I was younger, and you always know when you meet someone that suffered and suffered well, because when something like this
Hmm.
happens, it affects them, but they're still happy and still joyful because they know they have their faith and they know there's so many other avenues for them to find their joy other than a couple possessions in their house. So the Lord has just been so good in revealing that to me and a lot of my other buddies around here.
So many great connections from the show in general to what you were saying, and I don't even think you heard much of the show previously. So it's really interesting how the Holy Spirit works. And you even mentioned like someone goes through a lot of trauma in the past, and they really focus on their faith. You can really see the joy. I mean, you yourself are a prime example of this. Like you mentioned, your what happened with your father, and then now you're recovering from an injury, playing baseball, and you go through these hurricanes, and now there's like a tropical storm Nadine or something that, well, it might be a nothing burger, but it's like, man, and this guy, he exudes joy. How do you do it? So thanks for your example of showing joy in light of all this disaster.
Yeah, I mean, there's just never not a reason to be joyful. When Christ has stared in the abyss of hell and conquered it, there's no reason that you can't be joyful every day. There's moments of never a moment of hopelessness, moments of just pure sadness. But once you realize that everything belongs to the faith, and I've been talking with my friend Steve Simone, who I know you guys have had on before. We'll
Mm.
talk nearly every night just about the sacramental and liturgical way we're trying to view our lives. You literally cling to the sacraments. Both went to confession, mass right before and right after the storm. We're good. Anything else happens, like the things that really matter are taken care of.
That's right. There's something in Florida. There's some really exciting Catholics. Yourself, Steve Simone. My goodness, it must be the water there. I don't know.
I'm telling you, it's the Florida Martyrs. If you could ever make it up to St. Augustine, that's a great place to start because the first mass in America was celebrated there. I have a couple of my friends in California and other places in the country saying, we're really where California started with the Franciscans and Junipero Serra. I'm like, no, you guys don't get it. Florida is where it's at. That's why when you see on the news, and I tell my friends, you can type in Florida man and your birthday on Google and a crazy story will pop up because Florida people are just crazy. But the Catholics in Florida are even crazier because we're praying through all the saints and these martyrs, and they're just absolutely amazing. So if you can ever come down, Florida's the best state in the country. I stand by that through and through.
Well, I mean, you all go through so many storms. I think you all might be, and I'm just purely saying this, you might be a little stronger than most Catholics. Like for myself in Arizona, we have maybe a monsoon. There's really nothing happening here, nothing to really test our faith and kind of the nature realm. Whereas everybody in Florida, even in Houston, those in
Yeah.
Houston experience a lot of the tropical storms that come through. So I would say a lot of y'all are very strong Catholics
It
because of
was
it.
actually funny. One of my walk-up songs in college was "It's All About the South" because I love the South. I'm a Southern boy. Houston, Texas, Louisiana, Florida, Mississippi, Alabama, we get beat up by these storms. And there's just something special about the South in general. Like a lot of people have moved down from Florida from the north. And when you meet them, they're like, oh, are you boarding your windows? Are you doing this? You're doing this? Like, nah, we're good. It's just a hurricane. We'll be fine. And yeah, this one was obviously the worst in my lifetime, but there is a certain grace that comes with the easiness. And
Mm.
understanding how to be relaxed in difficult situations. Obviously, you're being prepared, taking the precautions that you need. But when it comes, like, the Lord's got it. He has the primacy over everything. The Spirit has primacy over everything. So you just relax and let it happen.
Well said. My goodness, thank you so much, JJ, for coming on the show. I know things are still a little hectic there in Florida, and taking the time out of your morning to jump on Morning Joy is fruitful, and we can't thank you enough.
No, thank you. It's great to be on. And like I said, it's literally a break after this. Going to do more yard work. We're not sure if it's a pipe that burst in our front yard in the street or whatever, but there's still water congregating in our street. So it's just been a week-long headache. But like I said, I got to meet so many new people. I'm just so thankful for the experience that it happened, and again, to get to talk to you guys. So it's been amazing.
Well, definitely inspiring for all of the rest of us here. We'll certainly keep you in our prayers as you kind of pick up all of the disastrous things that are going on there. But thanks again, JJ.